Shalom Aleichem and welcome everyone as we are getting ready for Shabbat Parashat Shelach. Parashat Shelach is famous as it's the parsha where the Meraglim, they go there to Yisrael and they come back with a terrible report. The Midrash tells us that when the spies went to Eretz Yisrael, they saw funerals happening all over. And they couldn't understand. And they said, Eretz ochelet yoshveahi. It's a land that eats its inhabitants. People die there all the time. Everywhere we went, we saw funerals. In truth, Hashem did this so people in Eretz Canaan would be so busy grieving and mourning their dead that they wouldn't pay attention to the Jewish people, the Jewish spies, as they were going through the land, surveying the land. It's quite possible that these Meraglim didn't see the good in the situation because they were looking only for the bad. Every day in our lives, we also have things going on around us. And the question is, how do we view it? Do we view it the way our Chachamim wanted us to view it, as they said in Pirkei Avot, Dan lechav zechut, judge everyone on the side of merit? When the Rambam's Sfarim began to be published, many Rabbonim of the time felt uneasy about them. They had the reservations of whether the Rambam was a true Talmud Chacham or not. And there's a story told about a rabbi, a Rab Meir, a big Talmud Chacham, who was sent all the way to Cordova to meet the Rambam. It was a long and tiring journey. And when he reached the Rambam's home, the Rambam was eating lunch and invited this guest, Rab Meir, to eat with him. And the Rambam's servants bring out plates, and on the plate, a human hand is being served. Rab Meir was shocked. The Meir wouldn't eat. He couldn't understand how the Rambam would eat it. The Rambam then asked, "Can I get you something to drink?" The Rambam turned to his servant and said, "Petrus, go get us a jug of wine from the cellar." Rab Meir couldn't believe it. The Rambam is sending a guy to bring wine, yain nesach, wine handled by a Gentile, which is forbidden for us. Rab Meir was exhausted and shocked. His head was spinning. He could hardly stand on his feet. And the Rambam showed him to his room. A little while later, as the Meir was in his room, he can overhear the Rambam saying to his servant, "Please kill the calf and cook it for lunch for tomorrow." The whole night, Rab Meir could not sleep. He thought to himself, I had questions of whether the Rambam was a Talmud Chacham. Now I have a question whether he's really Jewish. How can such a person be a Talmud Chacham? How can he write such svarim? He was bewildered at what he saw and what he heard. Early the next morning, Petrus knocked on his door and said, "My master, the Rambam, wishes to see you." As the Meir walks through the door, the Rambam began, "I know exactly who you are and why you came. And I also know that you did not sleep at all last night. And now I will explain everything to you, so you will know Then not only can one not judge by what one hears, one cannot even judge by what one sees. Yesterday when you came, you thought I was eating a human hand, but in truth, it's a Spanish vegetable. In fact, a very healthy vegetable. And you thought that Petrus is a guy, that my servant is a guy. But did you know that Yeshua ben Levi's father-in-law was Rabbi Yossi ben Petrus? And the calf that I told my servant to kill was a ben Pekua, a live baby calf found inside the cow after the cow was slaughtered. And l'halacha, you don't have to slaughter the calf. Rav Meir was ashamed. The Rambam forgave him, and they spent many hours together learning Torah. You see, Rabotai, hevi dan et kol ha'adam l'chav zechut. The truth is, something can be happening just like the Meraglim, and you see it and you think it's bad when it's good. We can't see. We don't know. Rav Schwab, in his Sefer on the Chumash, goes a step further. And Rav Schwab says, based on the Gemara in Sanhedrin, as the Pasuk says, V'tisa kol ha'ida, and the entire community rose, V'tnu et kolam v'ivku ha'am b'laylahu. They all raised their voices and the people were crying that night. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, what are you crying for? You're crying for no reason. I'll give you a reason to cry. And that became Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the first and second Beit HaMikdash, and many more Jewish tragedies throughout our long history. It's interesting to note that Megillat Eicha, which we read on Tisha B'Av, the psukim in the psukim in Megillat Eicha follow the Aleph base. However, if you take a look at chapter base, at the second chapter, and Perek Gimel and Perek Dalid, you'll see that the letter Fei precedes the letter Ayin. It's supposed to be Ayin Fei if you're following the format of the alphabet. But in the Eicha, it's Fei and then Ayin. And Rabbi explains the Gemara, it's because the Meraglim spoke that of which they did not see with their eyes. So the Avirah was that they spoke their Peh without their Ayin. And therefore, Peh comes first in the Megillah. And it's a very hard understanding because the Meraglim didn't lie. They saw what they saw. They saw people dying around them. They saw giants. They saw fortified cities. They saw very powerful Canaanite nations in the land. They didn't lie. So how could the Gemara say, and Rabbah says, that they talked before they saw? And so Rav Schwab explains, two people can look at one event and they can walk away with different perceptions. A spiritual person, a positive person, walks away with a different perception than what a non-spiritual person would see. And he gives a classic example. Abraham Avinu is going to the Akedah and he's with Yitzchak and Yishmael and Eliezer. And they travel and Avram Avinu sees a cloud attached to the mountain. And he says to himself, I think this is the place where Hashem wants me to bring the Akedah. He turned to Yitzchak, he says, Yitzchak, do you see? Yitzchak says, yes. Avram turns to Eliezer and Yishmael, he says, do you see what I see? And they say they see nothing. So Avram Avinu tells them, since both you and the donkey don't see, Shevu lachem po im achamor, stay here with the donkey, and I will proceed further with my son. You see, when you're more spiritual, you're able to see more. If you look only with eyes of flesh, we see what the donkey sees. A mere mountain. A mere mountain. The sin of the Meraglim was that they looked at the Holy Land with physical eyes. They did not look at the land with faith, that this is the place where Hashem Shechina will be. They didn't see the place of the Akedah. They didn't see Kiryat Arba, the Marat HaMechpelah. They should have felt with every step as they walked into Eretz Yisrael, the holiness that emanates from there. But because the Meraglim lacked trust in Hashem, they saw only wood and stones, and they described Eretz Yisrael in physical terms. So they indeed spoke with their mouths that which they didn't see, what they didn't see with their spiritual eyes. They told of the great giants who lived there, but they forgot the greatest of giants, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who were in Eretz Yisrael buried. And therefore we read in Megillat Eicha, Fei before the Ayin. It's very important that when we look at the world, Rabotai, that we understand that what we're seeing is but a limited sight, a limited view of what the world really is. And it's important to keep that in mind. There's a famous story told of Yeshua ben Levi, who really wanted to see Gilui Eliyahu. He wanted to see Eliyahu HaNavi. And so he prayed and he fasted and he did everything he could. And finally Eliyahu HaNavi appeared to him. And Eliyahu HaNavi said to Yeshua ben Levi, "What do you want?" And Yeshua ben Levi said, "I want to see what you do on earth." And Eliyahu HaNavi says, "You can't. I do too many strange things you won't be able to comprehend." Yeshua ben Levi said, "Please let me just follow you." So Eliyahu HaNavi said, "Okay." And he let him follow him. They walked on a long road, and they came to a poor person's cottage. And this poor person let them in, gave them supper, gave them bed to sleep. In the middle of the night, Eliyahu HaNavi gets up. He walks over to the cow, the one cow that this poor man has, that gives him the milk, that gives him the necessities that he needs. And Eliyahu HaNavi kills the cow. Yeshua ben Levi sees this, "What are you doing? What, this guy is such a nice guy. Why would you kill this cow?" And Eliyahu HaNavi says, "If you ask questions, you won't be able to accompany me." So Yeshua ben Levi kept quiet. In the morning, they went on their way, and they came to the site of a rich man. And they saw the rich man was constructing a new home. They were starting the foundation. Eliyahu HaNavi and Yeshua ben Levi tried to speak to them, and the rich man was too busy. He didn't give them food, he didn't give them drink, didn't even give them a place to sleep. But in the middle of the night, Eliyahu HaNavi arose with Yeshua ben Levi. Together, the two worked to complete the mansion. They finished the whole building. A magnificent palace stood there in the morning. Yeshua ben Levi couldn't understand. Here, Eliyahu HaNavi just built a beautiful palace for a man who'd not given him even a cup of water. Didn't even recognize him. But he wanted to see more, so he kept quiet. The next day, they came to a city full of wealthy people. The people were so busy with their own wealth and so involved in themselves that they didn't even speak to the strangers, Eliyahu HaNavi and Yeshua ben Levi. Yet Eliyahu HaNavi davened for them and said that all of them should become important people, they should all become prominent people, or become politicians. Yeshua was troubled. How can he daven for such a thing, that they should be so rich and so good? And the same day they went to a village. And in that village of people were so nice to Yeshua ben Levi and to Eliyahu Hanavi. They gave them machmas zarchem and everything that they needed. And the next morning Eliyahu Hanavi davened that this village should only have one wise leader. Yeshua ben Levi couldn't believe it. Everything was v'nahabachu, everything was backwards. And so he stopped. He said, Eliyahu Hanavi, I can't go further. You got to explain this. Nothing makes sense here. Eliyahu Hanavi said, I will explain it, but then you must leave me and go your own way. And Yeshua said, okay. And Eliyahu Hanavi told him that night that we went to the poor man's house and I killed his cow. You should know in Shemayim they were planning to kill his wife. By killing the couple's cow, I made it possible for the wife to live instead. And that rich man that we built the palace for him, do you know that underneath his palace and the foundation, if he would have done the foundation, there was an even more impressive treasure that he would have found. By building this palace, by the way, which will fall very soon, he will never find that treasure. The rich people of that town that ignored us, and I prayed for them, they should all become important people and politicians. That was actually a curse. As you know, too many cooks in the kitchen ruin the soup, and too many captains on a ship sink the ship. And for the last village, when I daven, they should have one wise leader. As Shlomo HaMelech said, through a wise man, shall a city be inhabited. That, Rabotai, is a story for us to understand how we really don't see. We see the here and now. We have no idea what happened before, and we have no idea what the future will bring. I saw a story in the Peninim this year, in this year's edition of the Peninim and this Parsha. There was a woman who her father used to be a Rav in Europe, and she became an assimilated person. She married a Goy, and eventually she gave her child to another religion, to their monastery. And a student of her father's found out about this. And so he came to visit her and knocked on the door and said, listen, I just want to know what happened to your father. I know he was in Europe during the war. What happened to him? And she said to this man, she said, you know what happened to my father? My father, the Rav, he was in his rabbinical garb. He was wearing his talit and tefillin. And he's wearing his talit and tefillin, and the Nazis knocked on the door. The Nazis knocked on the door. They walked in. They saw the rabbi. He asked, what can I do for you? And the Nazis took their guns. And with the back of their gun, they hit my father in the head on top of his tefillin. His tefillin went into his head as a wound, and blood gushed out on his white beard and the pages of his Gemara. And that's what I saw, and I no longer believe. Therefore, I know what you came here, Rabbi. You're trying to get me to come back to Judaism. Leave me alone. And the rabbi said, I'm not here to convince you one way or another. I just want to tell you that your son is the only grandchild your father had. The Nazis wanted to take away religion from us. It's now in your hand to let the Nazis win or to make them lose. You decide what your child will become. Immediately she went and she got her child back, and together with this rabbi she was able to raise him as a Jew. The truth is, we don't know, we can never understand. There are things in our lives that we can't possibly ever fathom. But if we go with the faith that Hashem is running the world, things are not what it seems. There are spiritual aspects that if our spiritual eyes would work better, we would see it better. But unfortunately, we don't always do that. I want to end off with one other lesson. This week's parasha, we have the parashat of Tzitzit at the end. And again, it talks about vision. And Rosh Schwab, in his Pirush and Chumash, Rosh Schwab says, don't look after your eyes, don't let them go astray. He says that when a person looks at another person, he shouldn't be looking at them with the physical eye of their physical attributes. When he looks at another person, whether it be male or female, what he sees is the spirituality of the person, the kedusha of the person, the tzelem elokim that the person is. Vision and seeing and understanding, dan lekav zechut, it's all connected. May Hashem give us the ability to see correctly. There's a story that's told. There was Rav Mordechai, who received a piece of fabric from Eretz Yisrael. And he was so happy to have a fabric material from Eretz Yisrael that he wanted to make a talit katan, a pair of tzitzit from it. He took the fabric to one of his hasidim, who was an expert tailor, and asked him to make a talit katan. And he waited for it to be ready. Several days passed, several weeks passed, and the tailor never brought the talit katan. Reb Mordechai was puzzled. So he sent a messenger to ask the tailor to come to his house. When the tailor came, Reb Mordechai looked at him and said, "No, what happened with my tzitzit? What happened with my talit katan?" And the tailor said, "Holy Rebbe, I'm so embarrassed. Nothing like this ever happened to me. It was a small job. I placed the fabric on the table to cut out the hole for the neck, and I did not realize that the fabric was folded in two. And instead of cutting one hole, I cut two." The Rebbe's face did not register any anger. He said, "2 holes? Wow, that's also good. Indeed, both holes are necessary. One for the talit katan, and one to test Mordechai's self-control, to see if he will become angry when provoked." Rabotai, with these stories, with these lessons, I would like to wish one and all a Shabbat Shalom.